Today we're going to learn about parallel and perpendicular lines. Now you've learned about them in the past, but the version of parallel and perpendicular lines we're going to learn about now is the algebra version. Okay, so we're going to start with parallel lines. All right, the first thing we know, first of all, this symbol right here, these two lines, well, yes, we know that there are two L's in parallel lines, but this line right here, this is the actual mathematical symbol for parallel lines right here. Okay, parallel lines. So your previous definition was two lines that run alongside each other but never touch because they're the same distance apart. So you have two lines, so like railroad tracks. Railroad tracks are perpendicular by necessity because obviously if the wheels started kind of, then it would just be a mess. So the railroad tracks are parallel lines because they have to be the same distance apart so that the train doesn't get all messed up. And so they run alongside each other and they'll never touch because if they do, then the train will crash and then everybody will die. So yeah. All right, so that's our old definition. We're going to look at the algebra definition now. Algebraically, when I have two lines that are parallel to each other, they have the same slope but different y-intercepts. So what that's going to look like is if I have this equation here, so 2x plus 4 and 2x minus 6, they have the same slope but their y-intercepts are different. Okay, and that makes them parallel. Another example might be y equals negative 1/3 x minus 4, and y equals negative 1/3 x. All that matters is they have the same slope but different y-intercepts. This one obviously has an invisible plus 0, but all that matters is that their y-intercepts are different. Their slope is exactly the same, their y-intercepts are different, because that means that they rise and run with the same pattern, which means they're always going to be changing in the exact same way, but they start in different places so that they won't be, so that they're apart from each other. Okay? So a horizontal line is going to be parallel to the x-axis. So if I had a horizontal line, so here's my x and y axis, and here's my horizontal line right there, it's going to be parallel to the x-axis. A vertical line, which goes up and down, is going to be parallel to the y-axis. Okay? And that is a skill that you're expected to know, so just kind of keep that in mind. All right? So that's parallel lines. Take a moment and write these notes down. All right, now let's talk about perpendicular lines. Okay, this is the mathematical symbol for perpendicular lines. Okay, and it looks like an upside down T, like a T intersection. Okay, so what your previous definition of perpendicular lines is two lines that cross, making a 90-degree angle, a right angle. Okay, our new definition is it's two lines that have reciprocal opposite slope. So we got some vocabulary here. Reciprocal. Reciprocal is a fraction that has been flipped. So for example, if I have 1/2, when I flip it, it turns into 2/1. If I have 2/3, when I flip it, it turns into 3/2. If I have 2 and I flip it, it turns into 1/2. Okay, so yeah, if I have 2, I flip it, it turns into 1/2. Because if I want to write it as a fraction, I put it over 1 and then I flip it. Okay, so that's what reciprocal means. Reciprocal means that I flip the fraction. Opposite refers to the integer sign. That means the sign is flipped. So if it was 3, now it becomes -3. So I'm going to change the sign. Okay, so in order for them to be perpendicular, when I look at two lines, they have to have reciprocal and opposite slope. If they're just reciprocal, they're not perpendicular. If they're just opposite, they're not perpendicular. They have to have both. So it has to be both. It can't be one or the other. Okay? So as an example, here's one. Y equals 2x minus 4. Now, and for perpendicular lines, we don't care about the y-intercept. They could have the same y-intercept. They just have to have reciprocal opposite slope. So what I would do to figure out what the slope has to be for this one is I would write the slope. The slope is 2. To write that as a fraction, I put it over 1. Then I would flip the fraction and change the sign. Okay, let's try another one. Y equals 2/3 x plus 6. So my new slope, my old slope is -2/3. When I flip that, it becomes 3/2, and since it was negative, now it becomes positive. So y equals 3/2 x plus or minus anything, or nothing. Okay. Now, we talked before about a horizontal and vertical line. So a horizontal line is perpendicular to the y-axis, because again, if I have, here's my x-axis and my y-axis, and I have a horizontal line, it's going to be intersecting at a 90-degree angle the y-axis. Okay, and a vertical line, a vertical line is perpendicular to the x-axis, because again, if I have a vertical line, it's going to cross the x-axis at a 90-degree angle. Okay, take a moment and write these notes down. Make sure that you are ready to practice this tomorrow in class. Again, we're just going to be practicing writing parallel and perpendicular lines, and it is important that you know about the horizontal and verticals. Technically, horizontal and vertical lines are also part of our special lines, but since we've already gone over it, I just need you to make sure that you go over the Hoy-Vox video again to make sure that you're ready to be tested on it in this unit.